Should we start it by examining what part of the fake wrestling do you want to examine? Why don't we start examining the WWE fake fucking wrestling? Because I am. That's why I said it earlier, as only Thunderbolt Patterson could say. I'm full. I'm full. I have never seen whether it be performance in AEW or even though they have some talent that can give you some halfway decent performances, if performances this is, or performances in the WWE, they're gonna fucking come back later on and explain exactly how fucking phony they were too. And I've lost my goddamn interest in when did everybody, again, I think I said this last season on Unreal, when did everybody become a bunch of goddamn nervous wrecks? It's like this is reform school or fucking, what was it, the Breakfast Club, where all the kids got sent to fucking detention because they were the ones that asked off all the time. That's what the wrestling business is. You got people fucking being banned for mean tweets when they're fucking idiots, and you got goddamn major stars that are having nervous breakdowns over their fucking matches. I don't want to know that Lumberjack Joe LeDuc had a cute poodle. I want to picture him eating small children and animals. It's fake in the ring, and they're telling us how fake it is behind the scenes, and then everybody's agreeing with it. Yeah, this is a bunch of fake shit. We're having a real nervous breakdown over the fake shit that we're doing.
So where do you want to start?
Let's start with Unreal. I can't think of a better fucking title.
Season 2 of Unreal, and they promised a Season 3 at the end of the final episode, which I'm sure we'll get to, but...
Promised or threatened?
Either or, but Season 2 of Unreal on Netflix.
But I mean, do you agree with me that it's just everybody now, either on or off camera, is these people that are supposed to be our tough wrestling heroes, our fucking... these giants of sport, instead is a bunch of insecure, nervous fucking ninnies being told every move that they're supposed to make and what to do and what to say and what their farts smell like by a bunch of nimrods sitting around a table wearing fucking ties that, as Bill Watts would say, if they were walking through the locker room, they'd be whistling Stranger in Paradise.
There's some sort of question in there for me. I don't like them doing this show. I don't think there's a real benefit to them doing this show other than whatever money they get paid to do it. I don't think it helps anything. Again, it exposes to me, yeah, there's a problem with everyone, I'm Seth Rollins, but behind the scenes, I'm Kobe. Every single person had to do, every single person had to be like, here's my real name, and here are all the other names you may know me by, including the one you currently know me by. I don't think that's helpful. I don't think that's a good thing, but a lot of guys, I think, want that sort of attention. That's one of the reasons when, MJF was first on my radar, it was so refreshing because he never broke gimmick. It was never on social media like, I'm actually a very nice guy and I just do this for fun. Like, it was never that.
I walked through a parking lot of fucking Marks with him and went to eat with him after. He doesn't break. He was amazing. That's what I was afraid then. But then again, they'll break you sooner or later. They'll make you break, and they made him break.
And everyone else breaks. And in this show, everyone seemingly runs to the camera. I mean, Heyman tells you how much he is against it, and then he does it as much as anyone. But I think the real issue with the show, specifically this season 2, it's almost an expose on the failed creative process and all the things that are working purely because the machine is working, as opposed to this is really hot, this person's taking off, this is really working. And it exposed all of that from bad ideas from Bruce Pritchard, which were included in this,
I know that a lot of people are taking credit for some shit that I would have tried to fucking cover up on.
But that's, to me, the biggest issue. In a time where we're talking week after week about how stale the WWE product is, this was the road to getting there. You know, the middle of the Cena run after The Rock already disappeared. And you watch this and you see all the time they're dedicated to Lyra Valkyria.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And you wonder almost if they only did it for this show. Because it doesn't seem like wrestling fans think of her the way they're talking about her in this thing. And just everything in this thing is it's covering a time where nothing clicked. The Cena turn was a failure in a lot of ways. Again, they sold tickets. The machine is big right now. And they've got high spenders willing to pay when the average wrestling fan won't. But this was a period of time where almost everything creatively sucked. And you kind of see why. You kind of see that Triple H is not a booker with instincts. He's a coach who wants to give you a pat on the back and a hug after he approves the ideas that are coming from a bunch of nerds.
I'm convinced that much of I know the dialogue at the gorilla position, they know they're on mic and it's somewhat stilted toward that. I can't believe there's that much just hugging and blah, but also some of it's just not convincing. But I disagree with one thing you said. They didn't push Lyric. See, it's easier to say. They didn't push Lyric valedictorian because they wanted to include her in this show. She is riding in on Becky. They pushed Lyric because she's Becky's friend and the storyline appealed to them. And they wanted Becky and Seth in here like they wanted Jimmy and Naomi in here because it's also, they can focus on the married couple. And then the child comes in, and here we're playing with the child. And we're playing with the child backstage. And they've got a goddamn couch in the gorilla position now. We used to get 3 folding chairs on a temporary wood platform with a fucking curtain around it. Now they've got a goddamn couch. Looks nicer than my living room.
It's like a nightclub. It's all lit up.
Yes, Jesus Christ. I've done shows in buildings that weren't decorated that nice. But they wanted the married couples. So they showed footage of Becky and Seth's marriage and Jimmy and Naomi's happy marriage. Apparently now her big push that we'll go through these shows happened until she took herself off the field. But the home life with the baby, that's what I'm saying. That's the last thing I want to see on a wrestling related show. Unless it's MJF in a fucking mansion abusing a goddamn subservient, or Flair in the 80s in his real house. Hey, woo! I don't want to see these people as real people, for fuck's sake. They're supposed to be wrestling superstars. Why do we want to know that? And Seth is a heel. Becky's a heel at this point in time. That this is going on. Why? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
And even more than gimmick killing, I think a lot of these kind of things in this show is aura killing. You know, when I was a kid watching wrestling,
they're just goofy, normal people.
Everyone seemed bigger than life, and I didn't know how boring their everyday life really was. That it was just like my dad's everyday life. It was the same thing, but they seemed like it would be bigger because these are rich, famous wrestlers on TV. Not a bunch of emotional clowns.
Lifestyles of the rich and famous with DiBiase is a classic example of people thought that was really his fucking house. Right? But anyway, they're focusing heavily on Becky and Seth throughout this whole thing, and they'll have other folks involved. The writer's room is anywhere from 6 to 10 people sitting there with Triple H at the head of the table. Everybody's got a laptop. Everybody's got some semblance of a collar, a jacket, or a tie. And it always happens at night. Why? What do these people do during the day?
Wait for Vince to
that
call.
it's always dark at night when they're sitting there with it. By God, by that time of night, they'd be lucky if I wasn't in my fucking underwear. And that's again, I just think this is this is wrestling and it's just ridiculous. 30 years ago, it was me and Vince and Bruce, with Vince wearing an Ica Pro shirt and Zubaz, and me wearing a t-shirt and Zubaz, and Bruce wearing blue jeans and one of those ugly sweaters with no computers and a bunch of fucking sharpened pencils at Vince's dining room table. That was bad enough, but if I'd have walked into this room, I would have done the fucking 180 and right back out. What the fuck? These fucking random people. I am not saying that you have to have been a champion wrestler in order to be a good booker. And actually, many of that, sometimes like basketball, football, some of those other things, it falls into the best can't teach, but they can do. But until you've had some aspect of whether it be refereeing, managing, promoting, at least not just wrestling, but some performance aspect or some regular day-to-day aspect of the business for a number of years, you got no business being in a fucking writer's room. So fuck you, first of all, with that. And secondly, this looks like the most boring fucking, we better not say anything wrong or elsewise somebody will tell on us, assemblage of fucking people I've ever seen in my life. How can you book that way? How can it with that amount of people in the same room, somebody is going to tell whoever on the roster that you're telling Vince or Triple H or whoever's in charge of this fiasco, you need to fucking get rid of this motherfucker right now. He's the fucking shits and he's a goddamn attitude probably. You can't have a booking meeting with 12 fucking people. It's insane, especially 12 people and a woman. Did you see the woman that was in one of the shots?
I actually thought she sounded more reasonable than some of the other people we heard from in those booking meetings.
That is not praise. So anyway.
You know, when Bruce Pritchard, there's a point where Bruce Pritchard pitches the mind-blowingly stupid idea of Pat McAfee going over Gunther. It's a horrible idea.
Yes.
And his reasoning was, you know, the other side, which is Gunther defeating the non-wrestler, is too predictable. And there's a pause, and who knows how much they edited, but it was almost like people were afraid to say, Bruce, that's the stupidest fucking idea there is. And one guy finally spoke up and very diplomatically said, is Pat McAfee in WrestleMania? Explain how ridiculous. But
I know.
Everyone should have jumped up and said, Bruce, shut the fuck up. You're not an ideas guy. You're a stooge. Shut up.
But see, when he was an ideas guy or was filling that role, when it was just three of it, I said the same type of shit. Are you out of your fucking mind if he said shit like that? And then he was, oh, no, come on. And I said, I don't know. Or sometimes when I would say something, he'd say, oh, you have bullshit. But at least you could. This is like a goddamn, corporate meeting where they're recording minutes and, dress accordingly.
Oh, yeah, because at one point they said to the girl, like, take that off the transcript or take that off. Don't put that in the notes.
Yes, yeah. I was like, Jesus Christ, no. Boy, I wish I had the notes on what me and old Vinny Roo would say back and forth to each other on a random day in 1997, though.
Other than being,
I'd pay money for if there was a transcript of that.
Other than being the conduit to Vince, what role do you see Bruce Pritchard is playing that's needed in WWE based on what you saw in these shows?
Bruce has been there so long. He knows all the information that needs to be disseminated to the various places, and he loves to go tell people things. So that's, and I mean, again, it's faint praise, but Bruce Pritchard knows a lot more about just the general rules of thumb of the wrestling business than most of these people in the room, because who the fuck are they? And what job in wrestling have they ever learned in their lives before now that would justify them being on the writing team? They went to school to write television. And so that, no, I have no respect for any of these fucking people. It's a joke. But nevertheless,
I was going to say they also had Bobby Roode and Brian Armstrong. I mean, they had wrestlers at times in that room. It wasn't just writers.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is if you had the 3 or 4, 5, maybe fucking actually have been in the business wrestling people that have been there for a while in a room with Triple H as the decider in chief, then you would see probably more of a wrestling based product, but they bring all these other dipshits in to do all of the offshoots and the drama and the focusing on the married couples and all the shit that we don't like about our wrestling. But getting back to this fucking show and the focusing on the married couple, they talk about the relationship where Becky had befriended our friend Lyric and wanted to work with her. And Becky was out there. She was worried she wouldn't be as over coming back. And I'm not even going to get into, when you have long absences. That's why I discourage long absences when you're in a big time position. Because when you have long absences, sometimes it's nostalgia and sometimes it's disappointing. But nevertheless, she starts a trend in this show, and Lyric has a nervous breakdown on camera by the time we get to the end of this series. But there's the fear, the doubt, the bleh. She's admitting human emotions. Maybe if she was supposed to be the sweet little baby face of the or whatever. But nobody keeps up an image anymore. Like I said before, I don't want to know Joe LeDuc had a cute poodle. I don't. And the rah-rah speeches and the pep-ups backstage, nobody used to talk like this backstage where there was a group of people standing around you when you're ready to go out the curtain or around the corner or through the door or wherever it was. And they're saying, go get him, champ, and patting you on the back. And you're like, oh, I'm so nervous. When did this all happen? I've never seen this shit before. When did everybody become a nervous wreck?
I think it's a generational thing more than any WWE changes, like Vince not being there. I think a lot of it is just, this is the generation of wrestlers. They're all around the same age. They all work for Ring of Honor around the same time.
I used to be that age. I couldn't have gotten to this age without being that age. When we're about to go out, if I'm nervous, it's, oh shit, I'm supposed to throw fire. Is my fire going to get wet? Because it's something I'm not, if I got to get juice, is somebody going to see my blade? Because I'm not used to doing that. That's kind of shit I got nervous about. But just going out for shows, on a regular basis, this apparently happens because it's at Raw or it's at pay-per-views or it's at wherever the fuck. And they're all there to applaud. And when they come back, Flair used to fucking joke about he hated when he'd come back from the ring in St. Louis because he had to go so long because it was St. Louis and he had to. He just wouldn't not. He'd come back and the fucking locker rooms were empty. The only people would be there was the janitor because everybody wanted to go get something to eat. And they were tired of fucking Flair taking all night. But so they do the whole thing with Bayley and Lyric, and they won the tag title and they lost the tag title, and then Becky kicked the shit out of her. And then again, Triple H comes back in to remind everybody, of course, this is the way we planned it. And but they also remind everybody that when Becky turned heel on her, everybody cheered Becky because nobody gave a shit about Lyric because she had that quizzical face, like, what is happening to me all the time?
And wings. And she came out
And
flapping her
wings.
wings.
But Becky still wanted to get her over. So that's going to continue. And then, as you mentioned, Bruce wanted Gunther over, or McAfee over Gunther. And I wrote down Bruce is obnoxiously pleasant. I think that's the only way to phrase it.
See, I find him unpleasant because he looks so bizarre. I don't know if it's Botox or just the way he's aged, but he's off-putting to look at. And then you listen to him, and he's so professionally slimy. He's so professionally disingenuous in a pompous way,
You know what?
from someone who doesn't deserve to be pompous in any way. It's weird.
Professionally slimy was the follow-up to comfortably numb. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
No, Bruce doesn't know. You can't talk about Bruce's appearance because Bruce is wearing makeup in these shots. He doesn't really look like that.
Creepy.
But nevertheless,
Creepy guy. Just a creepy guy without talent.
they Triple H is with the whole thing with Gunther and Pat McAfee and the angle they shot with him defending Michael Cole and everything. Triple H is on the IFB tell Gunther not to let him go. I'm like, geez, this is the antithesis of what you need to see, because the thing that we've lost and the reason why that most wrestling sucks these days is because we have lost the ability for people to suspend their disbelief. Not that the wrestling business is predetermined or not, but that these fucking guys are capable of snapping and just doing some shit. And you used to see it on a regular enough basis where fans would hit the ring in a weekly territory. If you've got 52 shows a year, you're going to have a fan in the ring, 5 or 6 of them. And they would see it enough that when the guy would hit the ring, the other boom, or in the floor or something, or some shit would go on and somebody'd get bad juice, or a really well-worked fucking match would get the people fired up and, oh, goddamn, they were serious. Just enough to where even if you knew the business was a work, you didn't want to fuck with these guys. There was a high probability that they might snap and do something they're not supposed to do to you or somebody else. And this just shows that they're more micromanaged than even when I was active in television 10 years ago. That nobody was micromanaging shit this much, nor did they have the ability to when I was in the WWF, even years before that, because now they've got this incredible crew of people to tell everybody every fucking move to make, which is why nobody looks spontaneous, and there's no breakout guy that you think will just snap and get away with it.
Oh, I forget what it was. Was it the Jelly Roll match or something else? It may have been something else where the agent was literally calling the match from the back.
Yes.
Have you ever seen that before?
In TNA, because a lot of the guys wanted it that way. The younger guys like to do it anyway this way. And also because we didn't want to miss fucking shots, part of the producer's job that I had in TNA was to listen to the guys tell me the match they were planning to have. And then when I was in the truck, if it was anything that was coming up that was going to be out of the ring suddenly or requiring a camera shot that you would not expect, in other words, not just regular wrestling in the ring, but the dive or the thing on the floor, somebody's running in, whatever, you would let the director know ahead of time so he wouldn't be caught unawares and miss the shot. But there was still plenty of room for interpretation in the middle. Like, okay, now they're going to be in the ring for a while. And I would watch the match and I could tell if they were setting something up. I would throw my own comments in, like, he's going to give him a knee in the back here in a second. When he hits the ropes, whatever. But now they literally know every goddamn move. And they can also, we could talk to the referees to give them time cues, but we weren't telling the referee every 10 seconds, tell him to change the expression on his face. It's just so, it's tighter than ever. But the point is, that's why people kind of just, because it's only the top guys with the really right moments that can make them Brock. Because you would believe, because he's a rich fucking mental case, that he don't give a fuck if he lays waste to somebody, and that's why he draws money. Everybody else, Anyhow, so McAfee, he's got his own building. Is that like a converted Mormon church or some kind of, I don't know, a cult building or whatever that he's now got a ring in his podcast studio in Indianapolis?
I don't know. It looked like some kind of gymnasium or auditorium. I don't know.
Well, it looks like a repurposed old building of some kind I think it was some kind of church. I bet you it was. But nevertheless, it's a nice place. And he had a barn. I've seen pictures when he was having Rip Rogers train him privately 10 years ago. He had a barn with a ring in it. So he's been into this for a long fucking time. But again, McAfee was worried he was going to look like an ass because of cardio or whatever, because he's a professional athlete, but it is a different thing. And he, of course, I think would have been mortified if they asked him to go over Gunther, because then the boys would hate him and et cetera, et cetera. But McAfee on this, and this is the closing comment I'll make here. McAfee on this did the best job of talking about the business openly and still giving it some respect. And because last season, remember, at least Punk, I believe, did a good job. But I remember Drew was featured, and they had the top guys that could really talk, and they could make the best of a bad situation and not just spill their goddamn guts, like, and make somewhat pithy comments about to engender some kind of credibility and respect for the business, even as it was being laid open like a goddamn filleted fish in front of our eyes. And McAfee everything hurts. And he's been a football player. And, he put the business over and how, much it takes, and tried to keep some respect for it and put everybody else over and stayed humble. And then they had a lot of stuff about Becky and Lyric, and I was zoning out, and then a lot of coming attractions at the end of the first episode. But you know what? The best thing, probably my favorite thing, Brian, about the whole season of Unreal came here. Do you know what it was?
What was that?
When I found out there was 5 episodes, because I thought there had been 6. And so I figured, well, that's the best news I've heard. I don't have to fucking watch one of these episodes. What good is this doing anybody? Except it gives them more television to make. I can see them sending cameras out with guys to go eat at Cracker Barrel and then shoot the shit just to fill time. What is happening here?
Again, it's one of those questions. I don't know exactly how you anticipate me answering it. I don't know. Again, I think they like to believe that they are doing more than just wrestling booking. But at the end of the day, it's professional wrestling and it's wrestling booking. I think a lot of people want to pretend like it's a lot different than what it is or bigger than what it is. And everyone's, I don't know if they're required, if they're told, if Michael Hayes is told, you better go talk to these people, or if they choose to, or if they opt in. But it doesn't seem like it does. Again, it doesn't seem like it does anything to help if it just destroys the mystique of the wrestlers and the angles and stuff you're doing. I'm not saying the fans are going to suddenly think it's all real. Just don't rub it in their faces that it's not. Pretend that it's real. That's how wrestling always worked. The universe of the 1 hour wrestling show or 90-minute wrestling show, in that universe, everything that's happening, as crazy as it may seem, it's all real. It's all really happening. And all the people that aren't crazy and nuts, that are in the studio or hosting the show or whatever, have to react like real people would to the real craziness. Instead, it's a show, it's like that old Muppet Show comparison. WWE's show is like, hey, we're doing a wrestling show. Now let's take a break for a second. We're going to expose the business with this next little video. Watch this. And now we're going to go back to this, to pretending that any of this matters after that. They can't decide what they want to do and what they want to be. But again, it's fun to see the inside of the writing room and all this stuff. I don't think this show does anything to help them. It doesn't change. It's not going to change any outsider's perception on wrestling.
Oh, good Lord. I would hope that no outsider would want to watch this thing. But you're basically, in summation, you're saying that all the people involved in this show are way too enamored with the smell of their own farts, is what you're saying.
Oh, there's several specific people, I think, that are way too enamored with their own farts.
Several specific farters. Well, we'll be getting into this because it's still going to be a long season, folks, even with 5 episodes. But you know what? I would make a joke about these people live on another planet, but instead, I think I'm going with, I think all of these people in the writer's room and everybody else, at least the male section of the WWE, needs to go to Mars because they need some testosterone level of optimization.
Stop hitting things.
Somebody. I'm hitting things because I'm making points. I'm making points that we need, folks, as you get older, or even as these people on this program show, when you're still young, well, things just start not being the same. It starts the same diet that you used to eat. Now you're just getting fat all of a sudden, and you got no energy. And you just wait till you get to be 60 something, folks, and then you'll go to bed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But there's all kinds of unhealthy ways to keep your testosterone optimized. And you don't want to be doing those things. And it either costs a lot of money, or it shuts down your body's natural production, or has issues with your fertility. Some people shouldn't reproduce anyway, but if you want to, you ought to take care of that. But now, Brian, much as we always tell our folks out there, there's a natural way to do things instead of the unhealthy, chemical, manufactured, synthetic way. There's a natural way that you can keep your energy, your strength, and your focus without shutting your body down or resorting to the dark web and drinking a variety of chemicals that are meant to make you live 1,000 years, but will also cause you to turn into a living mummy named Karis. I'm talking about our friends at Mars Men. Brian, you've seen the natural testosterone support that our friends at Mars Men, they send you a box. You got the box, right? I got the box.
I got the box.
You've got a plane ticket, or actually a spaceship ticket, from the planet Earth to the planet Mars. I'm saving this ticket because there's a couple of different people that I've wanted to send to another planet for a long time. And I don't know which one I want to use this on. They also send you a card with all of the ingredients listed in this fine. Hear that? That's a whole jar of them. testosterone support that I'm holding in my hand now with no synthetics, no needles, no dependency, just real natural stuff. Brian, the list of things that is in this stuff, you're going to be amazed. Do you know what's in this stuff? I'll tell you what's in this stuff. It is Tongkat Ali, 1,000 milligrams. 400 milligrams of Shilajit.
What?
4,000 IUs of vitamin D3, 675 milligrams of taurine, and there's thousands of percents of, 500% of your vitamin D also, and 83% of your vitamin K, and a variety of, there's fenugreek in it. So this stuff it'll get you into the Greek stuff. So all of this can be had. It's made in the USA. It's third-party tested. That means some guy over there they've been testing this shit on he's bouncing off the walls and hard as a rock 24 hours a day, I bet you. But at least he's going to a party. You've got a 90-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk, because the worst case is you don't absolutely love it, you get your money back, but over 91% of users, Brian, report higher energy levels and feeling incredible results. You can check out the reviews over at mengotomars.com. That's where, so we are going to send you to another planet. This stuff here is over the moon, Alice. You start taking these natural ingredients and has the benefits without the scary long-term stuff of all of that testosterone business. And Brian, you're gonna feel like a young pup, a spring chicken, just a young man again, with all the virility and instinctiveness of an idiot college student. So you'll probably make horrible mistakes in your lives and potentially go to jail.
Again, not potentially.
And you'll love
I
it.
don't even know where you're going right now, but let's talk about.
Well, if you're feeling like you're 20, 25 years old again, you're going to make all the same mistakes. You better, at least now you got the money to hire a good lawyer.
Lots of people out there have money for all sorts of things, and of course, it's a new year. Lots of people have New Year's resolutions, and a lot of people want to make things easier on their body the natural way. Mars Men will give you the same benefits of optimized testosterone without shutting your body down. No synthetics, no needles, no paywall, no clickbait, no dependency. Mars Men.
No depends. Our carefully crafted blend of ancient herbs and spices and modern supplements are designed to support healthy testosterone levels and promote well-being. Every ingredient, folks, I'll have you know, is meticulously tested for purity, potency, and efficacy. So if you want to efficacy your brains out to ensure that it meets the out-of-the-world standards of mengotomars.com, ladies and gentlemen, and if you said people got money, well, maybe you don't have all the money in the world. Maybe you want to save some money. Maybe you only want to pay half. Wouldn't that be something, Brian, if you could get all of something but only pay half for it?
It's not about what you want to pay. It's about the deal that's being offered to you. You could want to pay whatever you want. But
well, it's all about what you want to pay. If you tell me you want to pay something, I'll make you pay.
I guess the point is we have something to tell the listeners that not only will this be easier on your body the natural way, it'll be easier on your wallet the wallet way.
Wallet way. And that's a hard way, folks, for a limited time. That means not too much longer. So jump, even if you don't have energy, with your last gasp of energy and strength, folks, go now and do this. You may not survive, but at least you've done something. For a limited time, our listeners are going to get 50% off for life, plus free shipping. And it depends on how long you live, though. Now, let's come on now. Don't be assholes about this. Live to be 140. 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. And folks, you don't even need a code. You just go to mengotomars.com. And when you check out, you tell them where you heard about them and you tell them that we told you about them, and then we told you to tell them that they told us that tell them we sent you. But just go to mengotomars.com and they'll take you away to Mars with 3 free gifts, free shipping, and 50% off for life. And again, that's a limited time only. This offer, not your life. Well, your life is limited too. Nobody lives forever, so make the most of it. Optimize your testosterone.
That's right. Optimize it today with Marsmen.
All righty. Well, let's come back to Earth, Brett. Let's bring it back down to the big blue marble that we live on and try to press forward here. And did your mail arrive, by the way?
Yes, it did, actually. I'm glad you brought that up because I'll give you a spoiler. Maybe the star.
I know you've been anticipating something.
The star of the next Retro Figures segment from Latuni. I just got the LJN style Antonio Inoki.
Oh, yeah.
And it comes with a little rubber towel. It actually has movable arms, and it comes with a poster of Antonio Inoki kicking a boxer who, from the back, you would think was Muhammad Ali.
But no face is visible.
But enough to avoid any trademark issues. So I'm pumped about this. LJN style Antonio Inoki. I am the audience for this.
With the tiny little rubber.
Red towel.
Yes. Well, I got some news for you before we press on with the wrestling. Another branch of the combat sports. Do you want to get on Twitter and just type in the name Cameron Smotherman? Cameron Smotherman.
Is that a real name?
That is a real name, and you're going to see the greatest bump that you've ever seen in your entire life.
Cameron. Oh, it comes right up. Smotherman.
Comes right up. He weighed in for a big UFC fight today.
Oh, gee.
You saw it.
He did the Flair face flop. He did the Flair face flop. Ooh, that's not good. What was that, from cutting weight for the fight?
Apparently, either that or he just suddenly had a brain aneurysm. But folks, for those of you who have not seen this, if you look up Cameron Smotherman, this guy, he's doing the weigh-in for the UFC fight, and he does the flex on the scale, and he gets off the scale and takes 2 or 3 steps, and then kind of starts hunching over a little bit, and then pitches forward face first with a flat flop on the hard stage, and whoomp, and everybody, oh, shit. And they apparently had to carry him bodily, feet and arms and everything off the stage. Fight's been canceled, by the way. He got knocked out by air.
After he made weight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of these fighters cut 20 pounds or whatever. It's the same thing for the amateur wrestlers. This weight cutting bullshit is dangerous, and they get 20 pounds or more under what their legitimate weight ought to be, and then go into the cage or on the mat or whatever the combat may be, 20 pounds bigger than they weighed in at. What is the goddamn purpose then? Shouldn't it be like, here's what I weighed like every day for the last week, and I've been within 5 or 6 pounds? Okay. Something like that. But instead of, I'll sweat and piss and shit and strip naked and just shut my body organs down, and then gain 25 pounds in 2 days and get in a fight?
This isn't a new issue. I mean, UFC's been dealing with these issues with fighters having to cut weight at the last second, sweating until the very last. I mean, literally the last second until they're on the scale. It's not healthy. I mean, it's as unhealthy as you could be for a fighter. What's more unhealthy, a fighter taking steroids or something? Or starving themselves of food and liquid so they can get on a scale before the fight? Not good. This looks really bad. Oof. This poor guy.
Well, he cut weight, but he also cut all his front teeth out, I bet you, because
they carried him off like he was dead. I mean, Jesus. I'm looking at that now. All right. Well, TKO on a roll.
Well, let's go back to the phony shit. Unreal is what we were talking about. And number 2, segment 2, show 2, episode 2, that's the word I was searching for. Now they're starting to feed in a little bit, some of the other guys. They're going to focus a little bit on R-Truth this week. I say this week. All these things come out at the same time now. And Road Dogg, I love the Armstrong family, and I love Brian Armstrong. But he was introduced as a writer and a producer and etc. And he's going to start, because he's been friends with Ron Killings for years, and he's going to start telling us about him. And he kind of starts breaking into tears. And I've known, the way that I heard it first, I've known Ron. I met him in Memphis 25 years ago when I was a drug and alcohol addict or whatever. I'm like, what? Is this going to be a story where they were doing drugs together? And then him being a recovering drug addict never figured into the goddamn story again. Why does he just mention that at the start of every public statement now? By the way, I'm a recovering drug addict. And so I'd like a triple cheese with what? Did you see that, or did
No,
it even land with you?
I mean, it didn't. I mean, as you're saying it, again, I don't remember exactly how it was in context, but as you're saying it, it does seem like a superfluous comment to make there at the beginning. That's unnecessary. But, Brian Armstrong seemed, whatever you think about his wrestling writing ability or in-ring ability or some of his ideas that you've seen on Twitter or whatever, seems like the nicest human being on the planet. And
he is.
Clearly, Ron Killings and him, and they were together in TNA. They were obviously together in WWE. They have a very close relationship, and he's a very emotional guy. He's a very, very emotional guy.
Everybody on his show is so emotional. They're all crying, and they're just nervous. Rick, this show should be sponsored by Xanax.
I don't remember which episode, so I'll just say it here. You know who looks like he needs a hug at all times? Chris Parks. You want to talk about people who seem nervous and you feel bad?
Abyss, yes.
I feel bad for how nervous he seems in every scene.
It used to be when he was Abyss in TNA 15 plus years ago. And again, worked so hard and just a nice guy, but he's just so tightly wound and searching for approval that he'd ask everybody, including whoever was playing Mickey Mouse on the lot. How was it? Was it okay? How was it? One time he was asking me, was it okay? How was it? When he still had thumbtacks and shit on him. I said, go take the thumbtacks out of you. But sometimes you'd rib people with Abyss, ask so-and-so if he's got some feedback for you on his, because then you'd never get rid of him, right? But he's a very earnest person, but everybody involved now is all nervous and or hyperactive and or just nice. And none of those things are good things to be in the wrestling business, because it'll already make you hyperactive and fucking nervous, and you don't need to be nice. You need to be meaner. But anyway, and Road Dogg they told the story that Road Dogg has been friends with Ron Killings, as you said, forever, since Memphis 25 years ago. And they explained the John and Ron Cena deal. And did you go when Road Dogg said, well, Truth wants to cut his hair for the Cena match, Triple H said, why? And Road Dogg got fired up about I'm just tired of pitching ideas for this thing.
Yeah, well, he couldn't defend it at all. What was that?
At all.
I just love him. I mean, you should have just said that.
Well, but the thing is it didn't really make any sense. And somebody said, what, suddenly we're going to make him afraid of Ron Killings has been comedy for however long, and we're going to make him afraid of him by Saturday or whatever. But this show started what is going to run through the next several episodes is that we went back and saw that the heel John Cena was a fucking mess. And they even end up admitting that, people just want to see Cena, but they were dealt this by The Rock. It'll be interesting to see if The Rock shows back up anytime for WrestleMania. But then after they've had the match with Truth and Cena and the blah, 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 and they hug and they thank each other, so then his contract expires. And remember when this happened, we talked the terminology. His contract expired. He didn't get released. They didn't fire him. They didn't renew him. And I think that this was probably serendipitous that they ended up just making something out of it because of the backlash and people being interested, because they didn't want to renew him at the money they were paying him. It's not they didn't want to renew him at all. And I think you and I remember we went over all of this. So now Triple H is saying the contract was up. We were far apart. Communications broke down. So they let him lapse to make him come talk to him. But instead he tweeted, but he was never fired. And Truth said, and I get the idea that Truth is probably a guy who gets his feelings hurt easy too. But the fans complained, but then also they were able to get back and they probably, who knows if they re-signed him for the same thing that they were offering him before when they were way apart or whatever. But was this a lot of stuff about not a lot of stuff?
It was funny, too, after the fact, Triple H, they had a few different clips of him, like, profusely apologizing to Truth without doing it. Like, hey, I just want you to know, no, it was just business, we're just doing our thing. Because he didn't want to say, hey, I really wanted you to think you were coming back because I wanted you to come beg us for a job so we can get you cheaper than what you're asking for. Which is exactly what he's saying without saying. I mean, it was interesting. Again, R-Truth, another guy that incredibly likable. And I forgot how talented he was early in his career until they showed just a few clips of him when he first came up as K-Quick. And he stood out, and then he was gone. And went to TNA, where he was used as a top guy. He was an NWA world champion. Wasn't a comedy figure. You forget that. But he is certainly, I agree with them, that he does their comedy stuff better than anyone else ever. And I don't think you necessarily need a silly comedy component on your shows, but if you're going to have it, he's the very best.
Have the guy that does it the best.
With that said, he's in his, mid-50s?
53, I believe, because that was another of the points. You're going to sign a multi-year contract with a 53-year-old wrestler.
And you hear all the wrestlers like, I can't even imagine WWE without R-Truth. I mean, you could have said that about Jay Strongbow. You could have said that about anybody who's been there a long time, but it's wrestling. Eventually, you are going to age out.
A lot of people could imagine the WWF without Jay Strongbow. I'll vouch for that. But it's not Make-A-Wish. But I mean, I'm not knocking the guy either. And yeah, like you said, he does the comedy as well as the comedy can be done. But I was interested then when he came back that one time he cut the promo and he cut his hair off on at least the front of it. And you thought, okay, they're going to let him see what he can do as a real guy for the last year or two or whatever he's signed for. And then they got this and he disappeared again. So,
Is his hair back? I don't even remember from the last time we saw him on Raw. Did he grow his hair back exactly the same as it was?
Those dreadlocks are like 2 feet long. I would think it'd take a while to grow that. He may be working on his hair for the rest of his contract.
So, season 1 of Unreal, so much of it was about everything leading up to the Rock Travis Scott thing with John Cena. And Cena's obviously a big part of number 2 here, but it was almost like he was in the background. He didn't do an interview, I don't believe, right? He didn't participate the way everyone else did. And also, again, it didn't take the business being up, or the business, actually, I don't know if it was up. It was, in terms of crowd attendance, it wasn't, but business being up because of the system being up is different than John Cena's heel turn causing big business, which didn't happen.
He might not have wanted to sit down and talk about it because he couldn't come up with a lot of good reasons to justify it, perhaps. I don't know. But that's, and then on this, back to episode 2, Naomi and Jimmy Uso, another married couple with a kid. And I'm not going to go back and say everything I said. A lot of my comments in episode 1. If you've just joined us late, folks, go back and listen or go to YouTube. But the same things I said about the show in episode 1, I don't want to know their mundane married lives and their trials and tribulations. These are supposed to be superstars. And they told the story of Naomi walking out, which I'd forgotten that she was the other part of that thing, but it was her and Sasha Banks, old Mercedes Moon, that in 2022 walked out and gave them the tag team belts, said, "Here, we're leaving." And they said Sasha Banks once and then kept saying Naomi and her partner.
Yeah, and the other thing, they kept saying the old creative.
Then head.
Yeah.
The then head of talent relations. Instead of saying John Laurinaitis, which now is like saying shit, I guess. Then head of talent relations. But the way they presented this, and I hope to God this was exaggerated or edited improperly or whatever, but she didn't tell Jimmy she was leaving the building.
That's what she said. That's what he said.
That's what she said. And well, fuck that. They're married. I can't imagine. Number one, if when we'd been working together in a locker room and Stacy decided she was going to quit and walk out and didn't tell me. And secondly, if I'd have decided I was going to quit and walk out, I'd have went and got her and took her with me. How the fuck would this?
Imagine if Stacy walked out like that and she was making hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know what I mean? Like it's not just like, hey, I'm making $50 and I can leave. Naomi walked out on all that.
Yeah, in that case, I may have let her stay gone. But they had footage of her and Jimmy as the cook in the house, and they got a dog, and that's wonderful. But basically, I skipped a bunch of shit. It was she turned the heel, she got over, she started cutting great promos, she won the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and so far everything's great. More on that to come. And then they go back to the Cena and Cody universe where they had the match with Cena and Logan Paul against Cody and Uso, and R-Truth ran in and the fans went nuts. And that's when Triple H said he was so happy you're back. And Road Dogg said, nobody told me, but I'm happy he's back. And then he's forgotten after that.
Hey, what do you think of that? Because that's not the only time in this series where Triple H kayfabes either wrestlers or agents or commentators. What do you think of that? Seth Rollins, that's what it was. It was when he came back from the injury with the surprise cash in.
Yeah. Oh, and we're coming up on that, but he's done it. To your question, he's done it more than just in that instance, with that being the one everybody focused on with the fake Seth Rollins injury. But I mean, here's again, if this was the normal, regular wrestling business that existed up until about 10 or 15 years ago, even up there, until it got to be so big that a larger group of people now that just expect to be told about everything. And goddamn, thankfully the Manhattan Project wasn't run that way, or, the Eskimos on the Aleutian Islands would have had the atomic bomb. But also, you can't trust the boys anymore. And I say the boys and the girls and the talent and the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees. Because everybody wants to text somebody, or everybody's got a fucking cell phone, or everybody's got instant communication. And it's in some cases, there are things that not everybody needs to know. And to be quite honest, as a regular matter of course, in any company that I ever worked for, unless you were involved in the production meeting or you went and asked the actual people in a segment, you didn't, if you were a talent, you didn't know what anybody else was doing besides what you could read on the format and see so-and-so versus so-and-so or so-and-so promo. Nobody told you about other people's shit. But I mean, now there's a dozen referees. So I think it's good that not everybody needs to know every goddamn move everybody's going to make. But it's ridiculous sometimes with the things that they kayfabe just to be, as Vince used to say, kayfabing themselves.
Yeah, the overproduction's a whole nother story. I mean, again, calling spots from the back, telling the referee everything to do, just calling every single thing from a headset. I mean, it's somewhat crazy to me. I guess when you think of wrestling like a Hollywood thing like WWE does, it makes sense, but nothing feels ad-libbed for a reason.
Yeah, well, and also all the talent, the announced talent you would hear over the past 15 years or whatever would complain that Vince was always in their ear, the announcers screaming at him, say this or say that or do this. Mick Foley quit over that at one time when he was an announcer. He quit the company, went to TNA. Said, Vince, I like you and I want to keep liking you, and I'm not if you don't stop yelling at me. But that was producing the announcers because Vince used to be the announcer. Now, as Triple H and or his producers, because they used to be wrestlers, now they're producing the fucking wrestlers. Nevertheless, would you like to move on to the following episode?
That was episode 2. Yeah, that's what it was, episode 2. Let's talk about episode 3 of WWE Unreal.
It's amazing how the 3 follows right after episode 2. This is now getting into the Vision, where Paul Lee is joined up with Seth, and they've turned on Punk and Roman at WrestleMania last year. And then suddenly they went into a Penta segment because they wanted to feature Penta. I guess they chose him for the Hispanic audience. And I tried to skip most of this because I don't give a shit. But apparently in Worlds Colliding, they're also going to feature Chelsea Green, and Chelsea Green had a match against Penta in 2018, which she apparently is just incredibly happy about. And I don't know which is worse, that they had it or that they told us about it when nobody knew to begin with. And then they had a segment on Chelsea in her new house that is being built. Is that because hurricanes in Florida, do they build the houses, the walls with concrete blocks?
I would presume. That was my thought watching this.
Because, goddamn, that's honestly, I mean, I could see if that was like a dental office building or something, but they build regular homes with concrete block walls. Fucking hell. Anyway, I skipped that too.
You got to keep the weather out in Florida.
Well, fuck. I know we have tornadoes here, but if you just have to go ahead and just start from scratch building your walls with concrete blocks, I believe I'd move where it was a softer climate. I'm sure Chelsea is a wonderful person. She's definitely a hard worker, and she takes advantage of all her opportunities. But again, I don't care. And then they were in the writers' room talking about Chelsea and Zelina. Then they did a bit of a little segment on Braun Breaker, and then they went back to Penta. And Jesus Christ. And I'm thinking, this fucking show sucks. But then they got to the ladder, the Money in the Bank ladder match, and Abyss. And you mentioned, Abyss seems a little hyper and high strung. He also loves gimmick matches. And here's the thing. It's a special talent. I don't know what part of the brain it has to do with. But I will tell you about Abyss. He can sit down and hear one of these goddamn convoluted fucking gimmick matches. I know this from TNA. Well, these convoluted gimmick matches, all this bullshit going on. And then he can tell it back to you verbatim, move for move and thing for thing. And that's why no wrestler from 30 years ago or more would have probably been able to exist in today's environment, because if you gave them all that shit, they go, what are you, out of your fucking mind? But he can do it. Nevertheless, this is the part where they've emasculated poor LA Knight. They wanted a close finish with Seth Rollins and LA Knight. And they did a nice package on the match with Guns N' Roses, Welcome to the Jungle. And Seth even made the comments, did you hear him? I hate Money in the Bank matches. The ladders, the clutter in the ring, there's too much bullshit going on. Which is the thing I've said for anybody that actually wants to be able to wrestle instead of just do goofy stunts. It's just garbage in your way you're going to get hurt on. But nevertheless, here's what I was going to ask you, Brian. Did you like the finish that Triple H told him that he had wanted afterwards, or the one that he told him to do beforehand? Because they kind of sort of did the one that he told him to do beforehand, or told Abyss to have him do, and then went into a lot more goddamn detail when they didn't do it right. About what he had wished they had done. I heard two different things.
Yeah, I mean, again, Triple H has a very unique way of delegating, I guess would be the word. And then just sitting there as the Grand Poobah, overseeing everything. I felt bad for LA Knight, the way this was presented, because it really made him seem like the dipshit. He would have been the biggest dipshit in this series if not for that Lyra Valkyria thing from SummerSlam, which they just showed you everyone's face as it fell apart.
Oh, but, God, yeah.
I just saw the other day the Twilight Zone episode where Buddy Ebsen had the ability to help his friend win in dice. He had some sort of...
He had the telekinesis power.
I forget the name of the actor who played the gambler, but he looked just like LA Knight. I was fascinated watching. I was like, that's LA Knight. But, yeah, what do you think about all this?
Well, again, he went into a lot more detail about what was wrong with it afterwards that would have been helpful to have been conveyed beforehand. But I'm thinking if Triple H is standing there telling Abyss to get the finish to give him, why Triple H just go over and give it to him in front of Abyss and then say, okay, that's a lot of times that's what I would do if I was in a position where I had to give a finish out, but there was also a producer. I'd give it to everybody at the same time. So, okay, now you guys can go help each other remember and put things together or whatever and come back, but there's the gist or whatever. Instead, he's like whispering, okay, go over and tell him this. Again, much of this maybe is being shot for television and they know they're mic'd. And so I don't know what conversations are being recreated with acceptable verbiage. But if I'd been LA Knight, I don't know if I'd have been happy while I was sitting there and they're telling me everything I did wrong when it kind of looked like they almost did the fucking. I know there could have been a little more drama, but they kind of almost did the finish that I first heard to begin with. And again, it's these goofy gimmick matches. And then the rest of this show basically was more Penta. Paul Heyman loves Penta. On his infrequent sit-ins in the writer's room there, he loves Penta, but more on Paul in future episodes. But that ends with them putting the Vision more together and heel Cena beating Punk at Night of Champions and blah, blah, blah. And we're headed towards SummerSlam.
Was this the episode where they showed Penta's training school?
I believe it was, yes, as well as him and his neighborhood and him with subtitles, which helped to some extent. But
he was training children, though, and they were actually bumping better than a lot of the guys. Yeah. They were quick.
Well, that's another thing is I'm wondering, I don't know what the personal injury laws are in Mexico, but he's, in Mexican terms, a multimillionaire because of his WWE contract and income. And if he in his spare time is not running a well-insured operation and somebody gets hurt, bingo, bango, bongo. But you never know. He might just have to leave the country, Brian. He might just have to take himself and suddenly move to a completely different place around the world, as far as you know. Wink, wink. You know what I'm saying there?
No, I don't know what you're saying there or here.
Well, sometimes you got to be somewhere else whenever you want to do something that you wouldn't be able to do in the place that you were before. And that's where you need friends over at SurfSHARK. Now you see where I'm going with that. Because, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and children of all ages, in today's busy, confusing world, when you don't know where to watch your shit at or how much it's going to cost you, just do yourself a favor. Don't bother to subscribe to every single streaming service in the world. Just plant yourself in one of these friendly, neutral countries like Canada, and you can see commercial-free WWE. Or plant yourself in another place that has access on a more friendly term to the wrestling program that you would like to watch, and it's all due to SurfSHARK being able to reach through the lines of the internet and grab your PC and jerk it into a foreign country and implant it firmly in a thatched hut somewhere in the South Pacific Islands.
I don't believe.
And they get everything for free.
They don't.
Topless women, pineapples, everything.
All right, listen, Mr. Brando, let's get back to the ad here, and let's also say that's not how they do it. And what they do is very valuable right now, Jim. We are on the cusp of another Saturday night's main event, which is on the cusp of the Royal Rumble. Different services for everything. You got to pay all that money for the ESPN app. But if you were up in Canada, like Robert Goulet was, you'd have the opportunity to get that wrestling event on Netflix in Canada, save a bunch of money, see commercial-free wrestling at times. A great deal from our friends at SurfSHARK.
And it's very cuspy. And I'll tell you what, again, folks, you can change the country to suit your needs. Let's say you want to watch the, I don't know whether you know this or not, Brian, but in the United States, at least the contiguous 48 states, cow fighting is illegal. But you can just put yourself in Bolivia and watch all the cow fighting your heart's desire.
I don't even know if that's a thing, but let's not endorse that thing, whether here or in Bolivia.
Well,
wherever.
They put gloves on them.
On the cows?
They put gloves. Yes, they put gloves on their hooves, and also they've got a padded, like a catcher's mitt thing over their udders. So, folks, once again, right now, what you can do to save even more money than the money you're going to be saving on all these fakakta streaming services is go to surfshark.com. That's SURF shark.com/JCE. Use the code JCE at checkout. When you sign up for a period of Surfshark, you're going to get 4 extra months with that code on top of what you have signed up for, which is, again, a savings of all kinds of money. Surfshark.com/JCE. Use the code JCE. You're going to get 4 extra months onto your Surfshark program. Not only will you be able to fly freely around the world, you and your family, or potentially your mistress if you'd like to take her with you, but also it's plenty of security, because there, again, more than ever now in today's dangerous world, there are people trying to come through your walls, and you don't want that to happen. So Surfshark will literally send a bunch of sharks to swim around your house.
That's not literally what they'll... No, they won't.
Well, first,
literally, get out of here.
The moat is optional. If you get the moat put in, if not, they will send sharks that will just sit in beach chairs, like the Adirondack type of chairs, with a stick and fight anybody that tries to come in and invade your internet privacy. That's what they're going to do.
We were right there. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Saturday night's main event, the Royal Rumble, the phone ringing, Elimination Chamber, and so many other things on the horizon. Surfshark can save you money and make it easy. Jim, I understand we have a great deal for the listeners.
Yes, I just told them about it. Surfshark.com and use the promo code JCE. Surfshark.com/JCE. I can't say those letters enough. You're going to get 4 extra months on top of your surfing of your shark that you already signed up for. And that's going to save you all kinds of money and trouble and time. And they can't come in the middle of the night and kidnap you through your internet connection.
No, they can't. Let's end on that note, since we have a definitive statement.
So we agree with each other.
One more time, that link.
Surfshark.com/JCE.
All right. Trying to get a tiger dye here. It's not really... come on. Today's the day.
Come on now.
Come on. Today's a special... There we go. Oh, now this one's stuck. Oh, and now it's not working. All right, back to WWE Dynamite.
No, what WWE Dynamite? Unreal number 4 is the name of this show. Performance art. Again, I have seen married couples that did not have the affection for each other that these people have for the smell of their own flatulence. So Triple H starts this program pitching the idea, what if Seth has a knee injury, but he's only working it? Not only was it his idea, but he's admitting to it. And they've got to spend the rest of this episode, and I think maybe the next one, trying to justify it and act like it was a good idea and that it worked because it created doubt and blah, blah, blah. And again, this is one of the senior writers, as she's captioned, the woman giggling over this idea. There's always different writers in the writer's room. Now, there was a woman in here. She's got a bucket-sized drink cup. Maybe she was crocked. But who is this person? And I won't be sexist. I will give the same consideration as I give to the guys, to the women. You mean to tell me that they can find this woman and some other woman that was sitting there, that goddamn just out of nowhere because they went to writing school somewhere? There has not been one female talent that's gone through their program in the last 25 years that had any aptitude, any interest in booking or being brought onto the creative team to try to... Nobody? Bueller?
Yeah, see, that's the thing, too, because this is like the wrestling committees of old, in a sense. There's one person on top, but it's just a bunch of people pitching ideas, throwing out ideas. The way wrestlers became bookers was they were kind of noticed for having ideas by the promoter or the booker or whoever it may be.
Yes.
Like you just said, you mean there's no one, whether woman or man, because other than Bobby Roode and the Road Dogg, I don't think any wrestlers were in that room while we saw this show. But specifically the women, there's no one who was an idea person? No one who, like, man, she always had good finishes or she always had good ideas? No one?
That's what I'm saying. And I mean, maybe a Trish Stratus, I'm just throwing a name out, made too much money and she lives in Canada. She don't want to fuck with it or whatever. But even some of the girls that were okay, because this is where you often find, if you notice, the greatest bookers were usually just the okay talents, but they had an aptitude in the other direction.
Like baseball managers.
Well, there you go. But nobody, none of their girls in their program has ever. They put Warrior's fucking wife, who didn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch, as the old saying goes, on the creative team, just as a publicity stunt, right? That one time. But there are no
that was Vince
ex-active female wrestlers on the booking staff whatsoever. So, all right. So the point is, they come up with this idea that Seth is going to have a fake knee injury. And then Paul has been on the thing with comments from here and there or backstage, or occasionally he's in the writer's room, but now finally he's sitting down and they got one of those fisheye lenses so they could get a close-up on his face and not cut any of his jowls off. And he was my favorite part, literally, of this whole series, because even though he is cooperating with it, he still wants to try to act like he's not wanting to cooperate with it for the sake. He's getting himself over is what he's doing here. There's so much back and forth reverse psychology that is often with Paulie, your head spins. But he is presenting this in a manner that's palatable to him, and he can still use his dramatic verbiage, but he's still cooperating with the thing. He said, they ask him the question, what is a work? And he said, what's a work? I'd like to invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege. I'm not a fan of this show. I grew up in an era you defended the business or you were beaten up and ostracized. This is true. And it's hard for a person like it's jarring for a person like me from an era where secrecy was life and death to quiet. And again, this is great for Paul because Paul's always doing a promo. And then he said, depose me. I'll treat this like a deposition. I mean, at least he's entertaining within the parameters of this thing. And do you see Paul Heyman as nervous and troubled and, ready to fucking spill his guts about his, previous substance abuse or what? Or do you see the Paul Heyman that you would imagine when you watch the wrestling show that's Paul Heyman? Do you see what I'm trying to say, Brian?
I think the difference is Paul Heyman has always been secure in being Paul Heyman. A lot of other people seem like they're still trying to figure themselves out.
But all I know is Heyman, even when he is exposing the business and breaking kayfabe and telling you how the sausage is made, he still talks like fucking Paul Heyman from television. And sounds like that guy would sound, or you would think he should sound, and looks like you think he should look, because he's a genius. Morbidly obese, but a genius. Well, it's going to be a shame when inevitably his poor health decisions cut short this incredible career. But he said a work in wrestling is not as important today as it used to be, except at the very top level, which is actually true because you used to be able to take middle card guys that the people kind of liked and shoot an angle with them where you could put them on top for a week or two. And it would, but now, no, if everybody's done so much and everything's been done that unless it's the top half dozen guys in the business doing something, it's not going to make that much difference either way. It does to the individual wrestlers, but not the gate. And he got an ECW story in about when ECW, when they blinded the Sandman, he didn't leave his house for 5 weeks. I mean, it could tell the same story about JYD or whatever. He said, was it a work or was it performance art? But that's, I started thinking, because Becky is going to make a big deal out of this. I think, is it in this show? I'm trying to look ahead at my notes. No, I'll wait till the next show to talk about working the injuries. But I mean, but then they go to Jelly Roll because we got to have a celebrity, right? Oh, and again, the nicest guy in the world he comes off as, and I'm glad he's got his weight and his health under control. And I wish he'd do something about the face tattoos. I don't know what the fuck he just gave up on life early before he realized he's going to be a millionaire. And now he's got to be thinking, why the fuck did I do this? But the thing is, he's the furthest thing from a natural when he was in the ring, but he was working his ass off and he was humble at the same time. So I'm not knocking him as a person or even knocking the idea that they were able to get a big star and put him in a tag team match on a big show. But did we have to see him laying there and then walking through, laying on the table in the exact position that Logan Paul is going to splash him? And okay, and make sure you sit up a little bit and then blah, blah, blah. It gets so minute. Do you see what I'm saying? That, yeah.
Well, again, he wanted to feel what the table would feel like before he actually had to do it because he didn't want to feel it for the first time during the match.
Laying on a table.
Michael Hayes, I believe, was the one who gave him the advice to lean up a little bit. What are your thoughts on Michael Hayes in this series? I think he comes across great.
Yes, he does, because what a gimmick, though. I don't know. Why does he wear the hat even indoors? I bet you he's got a bald spot.
Well, he was losing his hair a
It
long
would
time
only
ago.
be natural at this point. He's a bit, but besides the fact that he looks preposterous, he gives like the wise old uncle advice. They don't focus on him per se, but they'll bring him in for a pithy comment every now and then. And again, he knows the psychology of the whole thing, but at the same time, he's been there long enough to understand what they fucking want these days. So yeah, I like Michael's comments aren't that bad and they're entertaining, but anyway, they go into the Seth thing where Triple H is still trying to say how cool it's going to be if everybody believes he's really hurt. And he's telling Cody how important it is. They're over in the arena talking, the two of them quietly. It's important that we kayfabe this. Don't let anybody in the circle, right? They're mic'd. And then...
Yeah, and by the way, remember the story got out. I think it was John Pollock. Yeah. Reported that they're going to do some kind of knee injury angle. And then when it happened, Dave Meltzer, when people started attacking him, one of those times he wasn't wrong, he was pointing out, look, it was reported here in advance. So whatever that small circle was, one of them leaked it.
Well, see, again, God damn it, what are they thinking? They're saying that, well, we're only going to tell so-and-so and so-and-so on the writing team and so-and-so in the match. And then so-and-so has to know. That's like 5-6 people. They're mic'd and they're being recorded. And how many of the crew people that are carrying the camera, that are listening on headphones with the audio off camera, that are reviewing this footage at the end of the day, that are logging this footage for eventual editing and who's saying what and what the time codes are. If it was just the 5 or 6 people like it used to be in the wrestling business that was just being told that by each other, yeah, you can keep a secret. But you've just, the 5 or 6 people, by virtue of being part of this television production about the television production, you've just increased the circle of trust to about 35 fucking people, some of whom don't even work full time in the wrestling business. So that's how it got leaked. And remember and I still say that it Triple H said in this show, the comment was toward the end of the match, he'll hurt his knee and go down. And as I remember, they hadn't had a lot of match. And remember, that's the thing, is the reason why I was fooled about it initially was I said, what could be the benefit to doing rotten television on a major TV special, to having a boring, awkward, flat moment in front of a big crowd in a big TV special in a main event match? Why would you do that on purpose? They did it on purpose. And they said they wanted it to be awkward and bad. And that's an LA Knight, when he was being told this finish, looked as thrilled as if they said they were going to send his cat to the electric chair. And they were talking about how good he was acting in the match when they did the finish. He wasn't acting. You could see on his face, this fucking sucks. This is the shits. I could have torn the house down with this guy, even if he beat me, but now they're going to do this way. Am I lying, Brian?
You're not lying, Brian.
Well, my feet ain't left the ground. But anyway, so no wonder they couldn't keep it secret. This was part of this production. And they were making a point to go and mic and shoot. They mic'd Triple H when he said Seth didn't want LA Knight to know. Why does he have to know? He said, well, Triple H said, if the situation was reversed and I didn't tell you, oh, okay, I see. God damn, maybe this is a bunch of loose lips sinking ship motherfuckers. But anyhow, they have the fucking match, and Seth said, I can't take full credit for this idea. Good Lord, I don't know why anybody'd want to. But that's, again, Bobby Roode said, 5 or 6 people knew, plus the writers, plus the crew shooting the Unreal, plus the blah, blah, blah. And when they showed the highlights of the match, I think they showed practically the whole match. But the injury spot, again, was as awkward and rotten as you remember it. And while the people that were involved in it and did it were trying to justify it, remember, not only did we shit on it as a bad piece of television, but then everybody on the internet saw through it in the next 4 or 5 days or whatever, and it didn't make that much difference.
Yeah, all those cameras back there for that, nothing covered the reaction to Goldberg running long or being booked short. That was the same night. That was the same night as the Goldberg retirement.
That's right. That was completely left out of this. Well, there's only so much time. But then, any comments on the whole Seth Rollins knee thing? The injury, at least. We won't get the reveal that it's a work until the next episode. But before I go into how they close this thing off,
I go back to the angle they did. I think Seth Rollins did about as good as anyone could ever possibly do to feign a knee injury. I thought he did a great job that night. And Heyman's reaction at ringside, just the whole thing. But they basically blew up a match on a show to build to a moment on another show a few months later, or later that month, whatever it was. And I guess that's kind of modern WWE. It's all just about moments. They don't care about the matches, the results, anything. the only things that really register are getting big moments, because big moments go viral, and then you can pretend like, look at how big and successful we are because this was retweeted 10 billion times. No one retweets a lot of the average crap that happens on SmackDown and Raw every week, because all they're doing is building to big moments, and that's what they did. They blew up the LA Knight Rollins match to do the angle, and by the way, it was a great moment when he threw the crutches down and cashed it on Punk. It would have been better if he didn't get hurt right away, shortly after.
Yeah.
But,
As Bobby Eaton would say, he burnt the bread on himself.
Seth Rollins stuff with the Vision, it's like we always talk about, is Seth Rollins the guy that draws the money or the guy that the guy who draws money works with? It reminds me of Edge with Judgment Day. When he faked the injury, it was pretty obvious. And now that he's really injured, it's clear as day. The Heyman group benefits from not having him. Everyone else is elevated right away not having him there. So, that's the other interesting thing to point out.
Well, but also, and to be fair to Seth Franklin Rollins, because of this injury, and when he comes back, he'll be a bigger babyface and of more benefit than he would have been as the heel that he was before he got hurt.
Yeah, unless he gets hurt again right away. That's the issue I'm talking about here. They built up the big moment for him and Punk, which has been an overriding feud behind the scenes and then up front. Well, I say behind the scenes, kind of in the background and then up front for a couple of years now. And then they pulled the trigger on that, and he didn't last much longer, and he's gone down before. And his knee's gone down now, his shoulder's down or whatever. That's the thing I worry about. He wrestles a very physical style. Is he going to have to work a Roman Reigns kind of schedule? One match every 5 months to make sure he doesn't break down? I don't know.
Well, no, you got a better chance of breaking down. You only wrestle one time every 5 months, but I'd see what you're saying. But anyway, they finished this show off, and I'm just going to, we're EO Sky. And I know there's a bunch of people that love EO Sky, and they gave her subtitles too, and et cetera, but they now have, this is what I took from this segment. They now have a WWE stunt coordinator. And he's not one of the boys either. He has a tape measure, and he measures out and tapes off on the floor EO's jump off an equipment case. And they have the crash pads that he comes out with the special effects shit that they use when they do high falls. He's a movie guy. So now it's double fake because it looks fake anyway when they're standing there waiting for some knucklehead to jump off a precipice on top of them. I'll cut you. But it's double fake now because they pre-plan it to the point, at least there's at least something to be said for the boys when they first started this stuff. When they just looked around and went and said, you know what? If I fucking climb up that goddamn basketball goal, I can fucking do the crossbody off the goal on you. Okay, I'll catch you. And they just went with it. But now it's just, they're stunt coordinators. What, as to quote Jackie Fargo, what have they done to my fucking business? So they did a whole girls segment on the Evolution pay-per-view that not many people saw, but it ended with Naomi winning the women's title and getting over like crazy. And all the girls were celebrating with her, and Triple H loved it. And we thought, well, she's great. And of course, this show ended before we got the bad news that all that greatness was going to come to a fucking screeching halt. But I'm a fucking stunt coordinator. God damn it. Just learn to take a fucking backdrop.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was episode 4 of WWE Unreal. We're in a good mood today, folks. One more episode to go.
Well, that's right. It was Unreal number 5, the climactic finish. They titled the show The Pop. And then this is what, and I mentioned this earlier in the program, but and again, I'm not going to go back all of my overriding comments that I made on show number 1 about the general tone of the thing, that everybody's a nervous wreck and everybody's goddamn freaking out. And I don't want to know that Joe LeDuc had a cute poodle. I don't want to know that wrestling heroes are a bunch of insecure nitwits with fucking problems with the electric bill. I don't know what the fuck. But now here was Becky Lynch was freaking out about who she had to lie to about Seth's knee. I'm having to lie, and I'm having to lie. It's working. You're not lying to your goddamn friends about important matters. You are protecting the wrestling business. That's working. And we've always known, and any family members would know, that's what you do. You don't have to even stress about it. You're working to protect the fucking business. But she's freaking out about having to lie, respond to all the texts. How many people do you know, Brian, that would text or call to see if you broke your leg on TV on a wrestling show to see if it was real or not?
I mean, if I pulled it off as well as Seth Rollins did, again, he did a great job. I'm sure Suzanne would get a lot of messages from people that know us wondering if it happened or not. I don't know if she would have this moral dilemma that Becky Lynch had. She was lying to her manager or, whatever she said. But they didn't lie to the preschool teacher. I don't know.
Well, see, I'm just thinking, and that's another thing. This is why you don't have kids, folks. Her daughter smartened one of the teachers up. That's why you don't have kids. You can't trust them.
You could trust them.
Blabbermouth.
Have kids. They're wonderful.
They're blabbermouths. But I'm just thinking, here's the thing. I was thinking, okay, if when I blew my leg on a scaffold match, right? If that had been a work, how hard would it have been for me to keep it a secret? And I was trying to think, okay, my mom was smart to the business already because before I got in it. Regardless of what she saw on television, she knew if I didn't call her and tell her I got hurt, I wasn't hurt. The rest of my family didn't watch fucking wrestling on TV. So they wouldn't see me for months at a time and not think anything was wrong. My close friends, besides almost everybody I knew was involved in the wrestling business in some fashion or another. But my closest friends that would be outside the business still watched wrestling and again would have probably been able to determine whether I was really hurt or not just by watching the angle and seeing what the fuck it looked like. And now that I think of it, one of them would have probably been Brian Hildebrand, and he was in the business just at a lower level by that point. My next door neighbors in Charlotte, fuck, sometimes they didn't see me for a week or two anyway. I was on a fucking road. And then I've mentioned the guy next to me worked at US Air, and he would leave for work at 5 o'clock in the morning while I had got in from the show and was cooking cheeseburgers and ready to go to bed. So we never really had any interaction. So I could have stayed in the house and just sold it for a fucking month and nobody would have really missed me.
What if there was social media?
Who the fuck besides my significant other that I was living with at the time and my doctor and my mother and anybody in the business, who the fuck would need to know that I wasn't hurt?
That's the thing too. Seth Rollins is like, I hate these crutches. Why did you have to go so many places that required crutches? Just stay home for a month.
Yeah. Or if not, use crutches. I don't know what anyway, the point is, I don't see why it would be necessary to let everyone know he's tweaked his knee. We're hoping 4 to 6 weeks. It'll be fine. What the fuck? Jesus Christ. And nevertheless, also, I'll say again, if Ed Koskey had walked into a locker room in the 1980s, the guys would have been flushing their fanny packs. What a narc-looking, plain fucking white guy. I can't imagine him trying to tell any wrestler to do anything. Jelly Roll, international superstar and yacht broker from Toulon, France, is a scared, nervous person. He was scared of being rejected. He wanted to lose, but because he didn't want to get the heat from the fans, but Triple H wasn't quite sure yet the day of the show. Bullshit. But again, Jelly Roll, he's a big music star. I can understand him being nervous about the wrestling part, but everybody's goddamn nervous. Everybody's scared to fucking death. Everybody's insecure. Everybody has flaws and problems in real life. I don't want you people to be fucking human. The fuck is the matter with you? I want to think the rock star takes all the drugs and fucks all the pussy. So they got to SummerSlam and Jelly Roll got splashed through the desk, Brian. And it was a heck of a bump, and they replayed it from every direction, but it'd be even better if they hadn't have told us it was going to happen and hadn't showed us Jelly Roll laying on the table that afternoon to get the feel of it. And, the Punk then beat good. Oh, the part where they had Paul on the bus going over the finish with Seth. Like it's some kind of goddamn eavesdropping they're doing without the participants being aware of it. They're mic'd. So you get a camera shot of the outside of the bus, but you hear Paul going over the finish with Seth to reveal the fake injury. And the audio is clearer than, well, I was going to say clearer than our audio, but you'd goddamn get violent over that comment. Clearer than TNA's audio on AMC. How's that? Are you still awake?
I'm still awake. Jelly Roll, like you said, he seems like a very nice guy. He seems so grateful to be there. Notwithstanding every bit of his music I hate with a passion. And I don't want to hear, again, another thing, now country is like emo. I don't want to hear about anyone's emotions anymore. Enough about everyone else's emotions in song or in promos. But he's like the epitome of what WWE hopes a celebrity would be.
Is that what the emo kids, if it's from emotion?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was today years old when I found that out. I thought they were all imitating Emo Phillips.
Do you remember there was that guy, Dashboard Confession? You may not know. It was just this one guy on guitar singing the wimpiest emo songs, and they would just be like all these like sappy looking kids sitting around him, singing all the words with him. It's like, oh man, am I not a part of this scene? And oh man, do I not like anyone in this scene? But that's the way country is now. And, or whatever this guy does. They played some of his music, but seems like a very nice guy. And again, if WWE is going to use celebrities, that's the best case scenario. Guys like him or Bad Bunny, they're so grateful and appreciative to be there and get a chance to do something they grew up watching, much like the wrestlers, that they'll go the extra mile and put in all this effort. And then you see Travis Scott, who they're not even mentioning anymore, who was a big part of, season 1 of this show. And now he's gone.
And he's gone.
Yeah. But, all things considered, Jelly Roll, I mean, you can't ask too much more from a celebrity. If you're going to book him like that, I'm not saying you should. He did as well as you could, I think.
Yeah, well, no, he's a wonderful fellow. All these people are such nice people. So then the main event that night was Punk beating Gunther and winning the belt, and then Seth doing the entrance and dropping the crutches, and surprise, surprise, surprise. And he cashed in and won the belt, and everybody kissed and congratulated each other, but we still had night 2. And we still have a couple of these stories to wrap up. And why is Cody Rhodes taking yoga in a room in Georgia with a bunch of soccer moms?
It's probably Brandy's place. Because men have jobs. Men don't usually in the middle of the day aren't going to take a yoga class with all the women.
But certainly I'm not saying, because I don't mean that he's at work at an office during the day and his schedule just wouldn't permit. I'm like, why would a goddamn pro wrestler, certainly this was done specifically for the television show. I can't think of a time in my life that I would have wanted to go into a room of 20 strange civilian women and engage in any kind of goddamn training or activity that would
Stretching
you have
and
to
bending?
talk to these people.
By the way, you can invite me anytime you want, ladies and gentlemen, to the room with 20 strange women who want to bend and stretch all over the place. I'll go.
Well,
Jim will stay home.
You have to bend and stretch in your own little cubicle there. You're not allowed to play Twister, or elsewise there may be something to it.
It's not a cubicle. There's no walls.
Well, there's some invisible walls I was seeing that I bet you if you just went for a two-handed press on top of the other lady next to you, that wouldn't get over.
It's a great place to meet women when you're single.
He's not even single. He just have to talk to all these fucking people. Anyway, I think Michael Hayes at this point is the one who admitted that the heel Cena just wasn't working out. They were like, well, the Mania match with Cody and Cena they weren't happy with it. The guys, we want to give them the big one this time. Michael Hayes was the closest one to admit it, wouldn't you say?
Well, then they tried to justify and explain the last-minute SmackDown babyface turn in a promo right before the street fight. And then Cody even had to say, we just figured we'll have a street fight like two respectable opponents who acknowledge that it's a... What the fuck? It's a street fight. Like, you don't just have a street fight in wrestling between two people who don't have an issue. So,
well, yeah. Remember they said, we found out Cody's going to go shoot a movie, so we'll just have John act nice again. And they'll drink a beer.
What?
Well, they got to smooth it over some kind of way. But nevertheless, before we get to that, we got to finish up the little storyline with old Becky and Lyric. And they had the gimmick match.
This was the best part of the whole storyline. This part right here, watching this in real time, was great.
And as Lyric said, anything that could go wrong did. And I didn't even see the one spot when Lyric's out there throwing Becky into the railing and the barricade out on the floor. She spun her around and threw her into the photographer. But he just smiled and turned and walked away. I was like, what the fuck? Because these are just random people they do this as a job. They don't know what the fuck about the wrestling business. Number one, as an ex-photographer, he shouldn't have been where he was. Because even though it looked like Lyric was going to roll Becky into the ring and she was going to spin around and throw her into the rail, he walked in between the wrestlers on the floor and the hard camera. And he was only like 3 feet away. He didn't need to get out of the way that bad. He could have gone the other way. Secondly, when this stupid son of a bitch got run into, he should have taken a bump. When I was a photographer, if the boys had thrown somebody into me like that and I didn't go down and stay down, they would have figured out a way to fucking come back and put me down. I was offended by that spot. Well, as a person who's been in multiple positions in that goddamn equation.
And they showed everyone in the back laughing about the fact that she apologized. Like, as this is happening, she's in this bed, she's turned around.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. She put her hands up, too, so everyone in the crowd could see that she apologized.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm so sorry. She should have fucking flippered the guy to put him down. Anyway, then the zip ties fucked up. And we remember that where it was Lyric's idea, where her hands would be zip tied. But then they came loose when they weren't supposed to. And she thought, well, maybe the camera missed it and put them back on. And then we didn't know she couldn't get them back off again. Once she put them back on, she couldn't get them off again when they needed to be off. And then there was old TJ Wilson with the Hart family kid who was the producer, was on the headset saying, I'm not sure what's happening. And remember, we said, my God, this thing wouldn't end. It went forever. They went 10 minutes over. So Becky's summation of it was, well, it wasn't the worst match of all time. Well, no, but for the platform. And Becky wouldn't yell at her, and Cena tried to pep her up, but she just sat there and just started crying. on camera telling them all the things that went wrong and how much it meant to her, and how, well, we only get one take. Then don't come up with all this shit that don't work.
Yeah, it was crazy watching her meltdown backstage, just as her eyes continued to like swell and get red and cry. Just, man, this series just reaffirmed my thoughts that she's not a star. I hate to say it, but they pushed her really hard.
We're not being pricks. We're not saying fuck you, leave.
No,
it's like some people just shouldn't be in show business.
I wasn't saying that, but some people are in the mid card and that's their role and it works for them. But the idea that she's going to be one of the big stars of the future or that they see big things from her, I haven't heard it in the promos. I haven't seen it in the ring. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I don't see it.
But I'm just saying that, we've talked before about, China or people that meet untimely or of any gender, meet untimely or tragic ends. Sometimes people just might not need to be in show business. But everybody's, again, on the verge of a nervous breakdown in this company and apparently in this profession. And then they finished up the Cena and Cody thing, and honestly, I was over the whole series by this point. They had their match, they hugged in the ring, the fans cheered Cena, and then Brock came out and killed Cena.
What did you think of them clearing Gorilla before Brock was there?
Well, again, I don't know whether some of this is done for the television program or whether they would have to do this anyway. But you mean to tell me that they, in their inner circle at the Gorilla position, where we used to even discourage the boys on the card from sitting there because they were taking up fucking space. And we didn't have a lot of space and people didn't need to, if your job wasn't to be there, don't be there. But now they can't trust these guys not to immediately get on their phone and tweet. Because if you have to clear the Gorilla position to keep a secret of Brock is about to go out, the only way that they'd be able to tell somebody is if they actively pulled out their phone and texted somebody right then, Brock's here. He's going out in 60 seconds. They can't even trust their own inner circle people not to do that. I mean, I've been a part of a number of surprise debuts or re-debuts or appearances or whatever, where we told a story, a hidden center stage for WCW, me and the Body's hid in a fucking maintenance closet. Or Ring of Honor, I was at that hotel next door to the Manhattan Center in a room until 5 minutes before I went out. Or in the WWF, whatever the case. But at some point, you have to be seen by somebody in the back. And I can't believe we can't keep those secrets anymore.
Well, that was the end of Unreal Episode 5. They promised another season, I believe, this summer.
This summer. So we get another season in fucking 5 or 6 months. Oh, bless them. Oh, joy, oh, bliss. But it's going to be about Cena's remaining time with the company from SummerSlam through his retirement. So we've got that to look forward to.
I think this show is counterproductive because I don't think it's attracting new people. It's not really one of the top things on Netflix. It's just for WWE fans. And all it does is expose bad things, in my eyes. This doesn't help anyone. Doesn't help the mystique around superstars. If you're going to have them all go out there and talk about their emotions, stop calling them superstars.
If they do 6 seasons or whatever of Unreal where they just all spill their guts and tell their darkest secrets and all have mental meltdowns and nervous breakdowns, and then they sign MJF and he comes in and talks about all his money and how his dick is 10 inches long and he fucks porn stars and he's better than you and you know it, and that's really him. It's the ultimate plan to get one motherfucker over as a fucking heel.
Well, maybe a long time before MJF could appear on this show.
I said 6 seasons. I'm not trying to rush them with them either. You know, these things go a little bit goes a long way.
Well, this highlighted a period of time where WWE was doing record box office business all across the world. Sales, 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 ticket sales, merch sales, all sorts of other sales.
Selling like they're going to the electric chair. You know what? Maybe some people need to get in a different line of selling stuff. They don't have the temperament or the capacity to not have a nervous breakdown going out in front of a large crowd and doing some hard stuff. So stay at home and just take people's money with our friends at Shopify. Because, folks, you don't have to travel around the world. You don't need to jump off ladders and through tables. You don't need to have your hands zip tied because, you know, they don't work with you, those zip ties. All you got to do is sit on your big keister at home, come up with a great idea, a wonderful product, or an incredible service, and then let Shopify take it and run with it. They're going to build you your dream store. They're going to set up your website. They're going to market your products. They're going to help you with your email and social media campaigns. And then when inevitably you get to be rich and famous, all they're going to do is take your soul. That's right. Just like The Rock.
What they're going to do.
Like The Rock, they want your soul.
Just like The Rock, they will talk a big game when it comes to the soul and then disappear and leave you alone, but help you with your sales and your business. Of course, we trust them with our online business, and you could trust you could trust your business with them. Their business.
You trust them, they trust you. There's trust in the air. And there's a cha-ching sound that comes up right about now that indicates all the money you're going to make. And folks, once again, you can be your own final boss. You don't have to wait for The Rock to show up and fuck up your creative. You can be the final boss with your store, with your company, with your dream, with your business or business. All about you. It's all about you. And how Shopify can help you make more money from them. And you know who them is? That's all the suckers and the rubes that you're going to be pawning this off-brand shit off on.
The everyday Americans who will be supporting your business, so you should treat them with respect, Mr. and Mrs. America.
And then once you got respect, then you stick one of your hands in their back pocket and you just take their wallet.
That is not what you do. You don't take anyone's wallet. So let's stop making suggestions like like that. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to take the bell off that kid's bicycle. In 2026, folks, stop waiting and start selling right now with Shopify. And you can sign up for your $1 a month trial period and start selling today by going to shopify.com/JCE. Shopify.com/JCE. That's going to get you, that's going to get you hurt if you don't stop. And that's going to get you the $1 a month trial period where they can show you all the wonderful things they can do to you. And then they get the hook in you and you're off to the races. And just remember, folks, if you think you can do it all by yourself, well, do you want to spend the rest of your life doing it all by yourself, or do you want to have somebody come in and pay them a little bit to do it for you? See, that's the decision you got to make. Shopify.com/JCE.